David, thank you for coming in today. Have I said that right? David?
Yeah, that's close.
Yes.
Yeah. David. One F, two D's. Yeah.
One F, two D's.
Yes.
So that means two D's means an F.
Two D's is th.
Right.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right.
One F in Welsh is the equivalent of a V.
Okay, right.
Yeah. So two F's in Welsh is an F.
Two F's is an F, one F is a V,
Yeah.
two D's is a
Th.
th.
Yeah.
All right.
And a TH is a th.
Okay, right. So TH is a th,
Yeah.
two D's is a th.
Yeah.
Right. One F is a v,
Yeah.
and two F's is a.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's complicated.
And that's just the first four letters. So, we got rid of the X and Z, so that makes it a bit easier for you, you know.
Right, right. And how old's the language?
I think it's recorded to be over 4,000 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, it's. I read an article saying it's the oldest spoken language in Europe.
Wow. Do you think it's likely to continue?
For sure, yeah. They put protective measures in place now. Over 1 million people speak it.
Yeah, I think there is some kind of advantage when it comes to brain power and IQ. That the more languages you speak, there is an increase in IQ. I read that there somewhere. What does the Welsh language mean to you personally?
It's difficult because most of Welsh culture is gone. Because Welsh culture was so radically different to Western culture, it can't exist. And whereas a lot of Middle Eastern culture has been captured in religion, which has managed to survive. Wales never had that. Its religions were too small and insignificant really to last, going up against the Roman Catholic Church. So a lot of our cultures have gone, which means the Welsh language is almost in and of itself the Welsh culture, because there's a few other little, idiosyncrasies the Welsh have that you could call culture, but really they're just nothing compared to what we were when we had our own formal cultures. So yeah, it's being Welsh to me really, to be able to speak to someone in Welsh, even if it's not great, because dialects are different all over Wales. Then it's that connection, isn't it? If you go to France, it's nice to learn a few sayings in French, and you can connect with that guy a little bit better. He'll end up talking back to you in English anyway.
Yeah.
And I've read cases of people who've gone to America and have learned Welsh before coming back to Wales. And I think that's super powerful. That makes it different. The difference then between like a little holiday and going home. How about yourselves?
Yeah, Arabic was something really important to us, even as children. Our parents did this painstaking activity of making sure we spoke Arabic in the home.
Yeah.
Which was, it was difficult. It was, wasn't natural really, given that we spent 8-10 hours, outside in school with English-speaking kids.
Yeah.
And then you had to come home and 3 or 4 hours struggle with the Arabic.
Yeah.
But yeah, now it's great, knowing that you've got another language and you can tap into that different culture and tap into that different mindset and psyche of the Arabic-speaking individual. It's different, it's just a different human being and different everything. And it just makes life that bit more interesting.
Yeah. Did you find it got in the way of sort of the assimilating the culture in England?
Yeah. It was. I would say that given that you're a child, you just want to fit in, and feel safe.
Yeah.
That's what it's about, really.
I suspect it'd be a lot easier being a minority Welsh speaker in Wales than it would be to be a minority Arabic speaker in England.
Yeah.
That's an entirely different story again.
Yeah. But there wasn't this pressure from London or Westminster that we want to wipe out the Welsh language, was there?
Not in recent times. There was once upon a time. There was something called the Welsh Knot. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
No.
So this is why there's not many people speaking Welsh in East Wales really, and why the resurgence is there, because the English schools were sort of quite heavily driven to be anglicised, you know, to be more English, and they had something called a Welsh Knot, which was like a punishment mechanism for children if you spoke Welsh, you know. And different schools would have different punishments then, you know, whatever. There was no better or worse than punishments for other behaviours, you know. And there was that culture too for a long time where it was promoted to be more anglicised, you know. The more English you can become, the more access to wealth you'll have, maybe, you know. This far into the west of Wales you don't see that, you know. Not much anyway.
I mean, the population is more concentrated to the east, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, compared to the west.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, the M4 corridor there, just the trade links, I guess, is what it's all about.
And the ports, are they, you know, were they quite active at the time?
They were, yeah. Some of them still are. I think the ones further west are still quite busy. More carrying people now, naturally.
Right.
And you've got the gas imports then, you know, the gas pipelines and stuff. But
and what's the relationship with Ireland? Is there a strong relationship with Ireland?
Very good, yeah, very good. We've got a lot of Irish people living in the village here. Yeah, I mean, they come off the ferry, always singing up and down the M4 there. You've got if you go a little bit further west, you've got like Irish named castles and stuff.
Right.
You know, Kilgarran Castle is one of the most famous. Yeah, I mean, the links go back a long time, you know. It's very similar places. I've only been there, you know, a lot to one region with work, but only to all of Ireland once or twice, you know, with rugby and stuff, and it's very similar, you know. But
you don't have any family from there? Or,
no. The people are very different.
Right.
But also quite a nice people, you know. It's you know, they're western, same as the Welsh. They're westernised, but they're not. You know, there's something missing there. Do you know what I mean? It's, they kept a little bit of their Celtic ways, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more openness for sure, and a lot more togetherness.
Yes, yeah.
You know, a lot less isolation. Whereas, you know, back in the southeast, everyone's very isolated, and it's only got worse with, you know, with technology, and then even the pandemic has made it even more. Isolation's been more of an issue since then.
Yeah, everyone's living their own lives.
Yeah, within their bubble, within their physical and psychological bubble.
It's the psychological one that's the most containing, you know.
Yeah, it's powerful, isn't it? You know, it's because the psychological world is just sort of so vast, whereas the physical world, you can limit it down to you know, the physical part.
Yeah.
But psychologically speaking, it's sort of an endless world, isn't it?
Yeah, and yet people are so restricted to like just a handful of dogmatic views. You know, they're all just being shuttled into this little way of thinking, and you know, it's sad to see, you know, massive potential basically being wasted because people they don't want to challenge themselves.
Yeah, it's safer,
you know?
Isn't it? It's safer. You know, it's safer to shackle your psychology onto something.
Yeah, like a job.
Yep, like a job, and you did quite an interesting job before.
Yeah, it was. It's quite a mouthful. Let me think, because I haven't said it in a while.
It's not in Welsh, is it?
No, I was industrial effluent wastewater treatment process engineer.
Effluent, so that's something to do with waste.
Effluent, yeah.
Effluent, yeah.
Yeah, which is you know, the water leaving something,
right,
as opposed to influent, which would be the influx of something.
Yeah.
And yeah, as a process engineer, I would sort of manage how the water was treated. You know, adjust the chemicals, change the biology, the chemistry, you know, until you got the end product that you wanted, you know. The difference between me and the average operator was the average operator would just stay on one site. He'd be taught how to use it, and there he would be for the next 10 years. But for me, I learned really hard and fast at a few treatment plants that were failing, so I had to go and make it work, you know. And once I did that on 1 or 2 sites, you know, it all fell into place. And what it's like, if you did heart surgery twice, you'd be able to stitch someone up the 3rd time, even if you've never stitched someone up, you know. You've done that, you can do this. And that's what I did then, you know. I travelled the UK for 1 or 2 different companies. Severn Trent Water is one of them, probably familiar with them. I did all kinds of different treatment plants. One massive one in Letterkenny, Highland, Norfolk, a chicken plant. It's, you know, it's a fascinating thing. No matter how disgusting something is, it's still beautiful in a way, you know, when you look at something through a microscope. It's really mind-boggling. And it could be a healthy industry to work in, it really could, but it comes down to people, you know, and the people I worked with were not healthy individuals. Sorry.
How do you mean?
When I looked at them, I could see what I was going to be in 10 years.
Right.
You know, like when the bosses came down from headquarters because they had a problem with something, their entire, like, they were in the moment when they would come to work and this problem was the problem. They were in the moment 100%, and I couldn't be that guy, you know. That was never my passion, you know. Like, as a doctor, you can't not be in the moment, you know. When you rock up into that meeting with other doctors or a patient or something, you can't be somewhere else thinking about arm wrestling. You know, you've got to be there 100%. Otherwise, that guy dies probably, you know, or doesn't get the treatment he deserves. Well, with me in water treatment, I just found myself, I could see what they were, where they were just going back and forth from site to site to site to site. Yeah. They spoke about work, they didn't have passions, and I couldn't do it, you know. I had to get out of there.
So what got you started in the first place? Was there any...
so it was a friend of mine actually. I came out of uni, project management and construction I did there. Not many opportunities, so I ended up working with my grandfather. Did a little job with this guy who got me involved in a few water sites.
What was your degree in?
Project management.
Right.
In construction. Which helps a lot, do you know what I mean? Like, when it comes to my general documentation, the way I manage everything, a lot of that comes from the standards they set, you know. Again, go back to the heart analogy, once you've learned how to build a block of flats, you can put together a little gym, no problem, you know what I mean, even if it's yourself. Or you can manage gripfest, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, one thing led to another. I think what it was for me is when I see opportunity, then I'll strike, you know. And when I went to the sites he was on, I was looking at everything and I could see they were having problems and difficulties, and I thought, God, I could do that better. I could do that much better. So I did. I think the worst site I went to, they only asked me there for the day just to help out, just to move some stuff, because they needed extra hands. And I think I was there 17 days in a row, you know. So it's one of those, you keep turning up and you keep doing something that people will value, you know, they'll keep having you back, you know. And then I had the full-time position and learned more about my trade, negotiated a new position as a process engineer. Yeah.
Why did you pick project management as a degree?
So my father was in building. He always said be an architect, and I did my work experience as an architect, and I lasted like 3 hours in the office, and it was dark, and it was just me and some other dude on a computer next to me. I was like, nope, gotta go, can't stay there, sorry, can't do it. Left, and then ended up doing a diploma in construction in college, and the natural progression of that then is either, you know, quantity surveying or project management, or if you want to go more technical, then you can into the material sciences and stuff.
So you pick people rather than...
Pretty much, yeah, on an instinctive level as well. You know, it's not something I considered in detail. But yeah, instinctively, I saw that isolation, that guy, and you know, when I saw him, I thought he had a vibrant life. I mean, sports car. He was always playing tennis or something, but little did I know the other 10 hours were in a dark room. You know, just working away, and yeah.
So this whole thing about essentially burnout really got you thinking. Do you think you were burnt out at the time?
Oh, I was, yeah, 100%, yeah. And I think I still am, 1,000,000%. But at the time, I was getting burnt out for no good reason. You know, I was getting burnt out, making good money. You know so there was that. You know, I can't complain. It paid for my truck and house.
Yeah.
But it's not good. You get jaded with people. You know, when you're only interacting with people you work with, that's not a true, really representation of who they are. That was happening more and more. The road was, you know, hard, an hour commute, sometimes travelling in Norfolk. You know, I travelled in Norfolk through the beast from the east, or whatever that storm was called. It's not a healthy thing to be, and I was making like huge money one year. And I just found myself looking forward to getting home to do those lawns. You know what I mean? And I didn't need the money, obviously, but I just looked forward to it. It was like switch off and just, you know, enjoy the smells and being outside. And yeah, when the last job ended, then I thought, what I'll do is I'll do the lawns for the summer, you know, and that'll give me the summer just to think about life, you know, if I want to get back into the industry. End of the summer comes and I'm like, I can do this.
Yeah, I'm not going back.
No, I'm not doing it. I'm not going back now. I start work at 10:30. I'm out in the sun. If it rains, I don't work. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I don't think I could ever work a normal job again, really. So
it's like the childhood dream coming back.
Sort of, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I dreamt big as a child, like, you know, but yeah, I wish, looking back, that I didn't go down that route of higher education. Like, as a person, I benefited greatly, but in terms of financial outcome, I don't think I did. You know, I think people are better off just getting out there, get into an industry. You know, even as a doctor, I would say, go and work for a doctor then. You know, and then pick up your education from that point on. You know, because you can start working for a doctor at 18. You know, but if you want to start working as a doctor, what's that, 28, if you're lucky?
Yeah.
Plus 80 grand, you know.
Yeah.
Or more like 180 in some unis.
So what did the sort of, you know, the whole academic experience and also working in dark computer places, what did that teach you?
Yeah, so the uni experience was awesome because I learned how other people conducted themselves. And there was a few people, like my material science lecturer, completely antisocial. Right. You know, you couldn't have a conversation with that guy. Or if you did, it would last 4 seconds. But the way he conducted himself was a big impression on me. You know, it was very different to school teachers and stuff. And there was another one then, the actual project management lecturer. He was another one where I'd never met anyone so unbelievably kind, but then also logically critical at the same time. And I took that from that day on. It's like, that's a skill. If you can just talk to someone, be super kind to them whilst telling them they're doing a really shit job, you can talk to anyone. Do you know what I mean? And then hopefully they'll take that on board. And if they can take that on board, now you're having a conversation, you know. The stuff I actually learned, pointless really. You forget about it. You know, my learning style is, you know, read quickly and write it back down quickly and then forget about it. Right. You know. Nice. Yeah, meeting the people I lived with as well. You know, from all over the world. that was important, especially for someone from, redneck West Wales.
Right. Which university was it?
Glamorgan, which is not
Okay.
far, but it's still a very, there's a lot of different ethnicities there.
Yeah.
We had Greek people, Germans, right the way through to, I met quite a few Indians there. It's really, really diverse people there.
But you always thought of essentially coming back and cutting the lawns and sort of coming back home and...
No, until it happened, that was never the plan.
Yeah.
The plan was always get out there, live the corporate life.
Yeah.
Get the fast car and jet set here, there, and everywhere. But I don't think anyone really wants to be that guy once they taste it. It's too much.
It's not all that cracked up to be. Actually.
No.
It's not all that cracked up to be.
It's nice to have something where you achieve something.
Yeah.
And I did feel that a lot from my work. Ownership of the places I worked. I was proud that the water going to the fish was clean at the end of the day. But yeah, it was too consuming, and it was too much of a disconnect. It was the corporation that killed me off. The whole HR, the whole rigmarole of you've got to be this guy. I wore flip flops on these sites. And I would openly tell them I'm wearing flip flops. If you want to write me up for it, write me up for it. But that's the kind of guy I am. Sorry, and it's like I've worked with scientists who wouldn't buy a new lab jacket because they had that lab jacket for 20 years. The mad professor type. And that was me. I couldn't be the corporate guy.
Yeah.
It's not for me.
Yeah, you can get lost in it. I know a few corporate people, and
I bet.
it's it's quite self-deceiving. I tend to get that sort of sense from them.
Yeah.
And they know it themselves, but I guess they're in too deep.
Yeah.
It's difficult for them to get out.
And their whole life is defined by that circumstance, so they don't need to get out of it.
Yeah.
They are the king of their situation, so why challenge yourself in a different situation, And I respect them as well, like the high-powered CEOs like your Elon Musks, who they get stuff done. They get stuff done. You need the mad professor who doesn't think about life. You need that crazy business guy who just goes for it 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, I think if you're yourself, then it's all right. If that's who you are, and I think people like Elon Musk, that's who they are. I don't think they're deceiving themselves, but a lot of people are in corporate spaces because it's comfortable, essentially. But it's not who they truly are.
No.
That's the thing.
They don't challenge themselves in other ways.
Yeah.
It's you see the opposite of that in arm wrestling, I think.
Yeah, tell us about the arm wrestling. When, why did it start and when did it start?
So I saw a video of Devon Larratt dressed up as an old guy, beating people in some pub somewhere with Juji Mufu. And
When was this?
Years ago. I mean, I think that video was like
2019, I would say.
Yeah.
Really?
The beginning of 2019.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
For some of the listeners who are listening and they don't know who you're talking about, who are these two weirdos?
Yeah, Devon Larratt's like what is he? How would you describe him?
He's someone that wants to be connected with the ground, and he has a
Connected with the ground.
Yes, and with life and everyone.
Right.
And he has it's like he has a message, not a message, maybe a living don't know what the word is I'm looking for. But
You're moving your fingers though.
Yes, he has something he wants to spread and show the world.
Right.
And that thing happens to be arm wrestling. I
Okay.
suppose. And
So he's an arm wrestler. He's a famous arm wrestler.
well, I would say he's probably the best person that's been pushing the sport.
And he's from Canada.
He's from Canada, yes.
Right. And he's in his late 40s.
47, I think.
He's 47.
Yeah.
So why do you think he's been so so famous or popular within the arm wrestling community?
He knows how to get people to like him.
Right.
Yeah, he's quite charismatic. And
Okay.
Naturally charismatic,
yes,
isn't he?
yes.
Yeah.
He's a good entertainer and.
He's a leader, I think.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Not a serious leader, and I don't think he'd like to be a leader. But he is a natural leader, I think.
Yeah.
So back to the beginning of arm wrestling for you.
Yeah, so I came across Devon Larratt.
And who's the other guy?
Juji is a sports personality.
Yeah.
So I was watching him because I was involved in strongman at the time, so I was training
Right.
for strongman competitions.
Right.
He was also training for like strongman competitions. So I was watching some of his stuff, and then one day he hooked up with them. Straight away, he was applying his strength in the real world. When there's no other sport like strongman, powerlifting, bodybuilding, like bodybuilders are a prime example. They get big, strong, and yes, they look fantastic, and that's how they're judged. That's why they do it. It's the aesthetic sense, but none of them actually use their strengths aside from what they're doing in training. So if someone's deadlifting, they're deadlifting to deadlift more, Whereas an arm wrestler is like, he's using his strengths at the most fundamental level. It's me versus you, That's going to every time we touch up, it's going to change. And I saw that, and I was like, oh my god, I can use my strengths there every week. We can get together and do it. It's like grip training,
Yeah. Well, probably more like a martial art then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're interacting, you're using your strengths. So I straight away I could see that I could enjoy training, which I love to train, and it would be for a reason, Whereas all my training up to that point had been for zero reason at all, apart from my own development, which is massively important as well, obviously. But arm wrestling is next level, where you can take all these things from the gym, put them together, and then go out and use it, like a sport, like tennis or anything, snooker. You can go out there and do it, As bodybuilding, you're just going to go out and do more bodybuilding. And I saw that, and I clicked on Devon Larratt, and then it just went from there. He launched an app, ArmBet, to link up with other arm wrestlers. I downloaded that app about 3 weeks before COVID came. So then about a year and a quarter after that, I'd been talking to people and everyone was ready to come, and we launched the club then a year later.
So previous to that, you weren't doing any arm wrestling. It was
No.
It was powerlifting.
All strongman and bodybuilding, that kind of thing. I built a table. Me and Big Dwayne, one of the guys, did some arm wrestling. We were in isolation together through COVID.
Oh, that's nice.
We were in the same bubble.
Arm wrestling bubble.
Arm wrestling bubble, yeah. Or the key worker and catch COVID bubble, which is how it turned out to be. And yeah, we got it all going after COVID then, and Joe James and so many others came along.
Were you always interested in sort of the whole body weights kind of stuff, or was
For sure.
was that your release kind of thing?
For sure, yeah. I did so much of it as a child, like martial arts I did from a very young age, excuse me, right the way through. And rugby then I did a lot of weights, I got a bit sick of it. But then I gained a lot of weight in uni, so I came back and eventually realised, you've got to burn this off. And the gym was that salvation for me, I could feel something wasn't right with my sugar levels. You know it when you get a sugar crash and you haven't eaten loads of sugar to cause the crash.
Wow.
that's diabetes crawling up the back of your neck, you know, waiting to get you. So that was the fundamental reason then. I thought, look, it's time to get back into the gym. And it went really well. Lost loads of weight. Years went by, I think 2.5, 3 years of hard training. Then arm wrestling came into it. So, yeah. Don't look back either, you know, arm wrestling is awesome. It's everything you want from training and more.
What does it mean to you, arm wrestling? I mean, what is it about? Because what I see is sort of two people on a table and sort of they yank each other, yank each other's arms around.
Yeah, one of them's going to get hurt. Yeah, I think, you know, fundamentally for me and many others, it's fun.
Right.
You know, it's nice. It's nice to get together with the guys. Most clubs I've met are very friendly with each other, at least, if not other people. So you've got a good camaraderie. And I think that's the core of it. But then for me, there's a lot more, like the expression of strength. Like I said, you know, training for a lifetime, whether it's martial arts, rugby, gym, strongman or arm wrestling. You know, it's nice to get some recognition or something back from that training, you know. Whereas there'd be zero chance without arm wrestling. You know, and like how does someone who's just, you know, past the prime athletically, conventionally, you know, you're not going to compete with anyone really. But arm wrestling to me is that silver bullet. You know, it's the it's so much. It's like reshaped everything really. You know, it's as a sport hobby, it makes you live your life cleaner. You know, every cigarette I think twice about it because I've got an arm wrestling match. You know. You know, I won't drink as much if my muscles are hurting. You know, it'll refocus your life. And then most recently for me, the ultimate next level has been, you know, can it be a full-time prospect? You know, can I do it and earn money through it enough to sustain being in the sport? And can I push it to the next level? You know, which is 10 clubs in Wales, 10 events in Wales every year. Those are the big questions now for me. But that's what I see in arm wrestling. You know, I see myself being full time, as well as a dozen other athletes in the UK. For being athletes, you know, like I'm going to be one of the first ones on that wave because I'm going to be producing content, you know, but eventually there's going to be just arm wrestlers coming through, like footballers. Footballers don't make their own content, you know. That generation will come through. I think after Hasan, personally, I think probably 2 generations after you, that's when you're going to see the new age athlete coming through into a sport where there's 100 clubs or 500 clubs, you know. And that's kind of what it means to me really, is like what can come of it, you know. There's so much potential, whether it's a bigger club here, we get together 2-3 times a week sometimes, whether it's events here and elsewhere, whether it's getting new people involved in the game, or whether it's me reaching that next level on the scene, you know. So yeah, there's a lot on the line.
Yeah, and where does how did gripfest start? And
gripfest.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so we've been to a few events with the PA.
PA is
the Professional Arm Wrestling Association of the UK and Ireland. And they're really good for what they do, which is a serious arm wrestling tournament.
Yeah.
You know, if you want credibility, if you want competition, if you want respect, you go to the PA, you win that tournament. No one can say otherwise, because it's very deep stacked. You know, it's a really good organisation. Now, there's a lot of things that they don't do, and they don't even want to do those things, and they don't even try to do those things. And those things are, they don't look to put on a show, because again it's a respected organisation. They look to enforce the rules at every possible chance, you know, and it's almost like, you know, it doesn't matter if it's filmed, you know, because it's just what happens there is the most important thing. Whereas what we do is put on a show. You know, I want to show the world, or more importantly, I want to show the south of the UK, the M4 corridor, what there is that they can get involved in, you know, and that's going to come in the form of gripfest and other tournaments, you know. But those tournaments, they won't be like the PAA, you know. Like, I'm not going to try and be a respected organisation like them. It would be a fool's errand to try and match that, you know. So instead, I'm going to come in from a much slicker angle where we've got more laid-back events, get-togethers, you know, table time with everyone. You know, don't turn up there looking to rip people's heads off. Instead, turn up to network, to meet, to learn, to interact with the pros, to find new clubs to go to, you know. And I was discussing it with Tim from Oxford, much like we did now, and with another guy, Al from Wales. And Tim said, why don't we do an event, call it gripfest, you know, capture other aspects of the sport too, like grip sports and arm sports and who knows what else. I thought, fantastic, let's do it, you know. So it came about. We spoke with a few pros. It started out with 6 pros. We've ended up with 11. One unfortunately pulled out with an injury, so we're on 10.
You had the first event last year, was it?
No, it was in January of this year. Yeah, that was the test event really, to see who would be willing to come to West Wales. That was a tournament, but it was a friendly tournament where it was just everyone in one bracket and you pulled the nearest one in weight. And that taught me really was that day was wasted in my opinion, because we had all these people in a room. None of them were arm wrestling each other until they were called up to the table to have one arm wrestle, and then off they went to just stand there. And I thought, wow, if we just had 8 tables, I would like to pull everyone in this room, you know. And when they were leaving, I was thinking, didn't arm wrestle you, didn't arm wrestle you, didn't arm wrestle you, didn't arm wrestle you. But we all travelled the country to meet you, and none of us have arm wrestled each other, apart from a select few. Do you know what I mean? Like, we've spoken about it, you know, when we were at Circle of Arms, there wasn't the time and you couldn't dedicate the energy to go around everyone, you know. And that's where gripfest is going to come in now, you know, is people can go to the pros, have time with the pros, you know, without feeling like you're obliging them to do something they don't want to do. And then at the end of the day, pull everyone, you know. And I'm going to be on the day calling people out and saying, look, have you pulled everyone here? Who haven't you pulled? You know. Because there's that whole aspect of the sport that's missing, I think, where, like, if you look at rugby, if you go on a rugby tour, you'll play rugby for 90 minutes, you'll drink for 5 hours, you know, and you'll go for breakfast the following morning with your opposition, and all that's just missed. People are turning up and just leaving straight away, you know, and if that's what it is, then that's a bit boring, you know what I mean? We need people there, we need an audience there, we need engagement, and yeah, that's gripfest hopefully. So we'll see how it goes tomorrow. So.
Are there sort of any other sort of tournaments like this or events like this in the UK that really caught your fancy?
There's other events all over the UK, and
I mean, is this a new idea that you've come up with, or something that you've seen before?
Well, it's similar in principle to, say, the Arnold Classic.
Right.
Where the Arnold Classic is a bodybuilding competition, where they've stuck on the side of that a strongman competition, and usually an arm wrestling competition too. Where I'd like that model to be used for arm wrestling. So gripfest becomes the Arnold Classic, then the ancillary sports then becomes the arm sports. So maybe a strict curl competition or stone lifting, for instance, or maybe even strongman. Strongman isn't really showcased in Wales very well, you know. So I don't see why I couldn't ring up Wales' strongest man and say, listen, we've got gripfest coming up, you know, in Newport, for instance, in 3 months or whatever, theoretically. Why don't you hold a competition on the same day? Do you know what I mean? Or maybe even the PAA. We could say to them, look, you hold the competition then on a Sunday, start nice and early. We'll hold gripfest Saturday. Or actually the other way around, so they're fresh for the PAA, but then they stay for gripfest, you know. And then we might also encapsulate some of the strongmen who are there, or some of the climbers who are there, which you might have seen the content of recently online. You know, we've been to a climbing gym. That's how I'd like to see it pan out.
Yeah.
You know, it's,
Who makes the best, in your experience, best arm wrestlers in terms of the sports?
so you've got to look at Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
They are dominant. And I think it's just like the depth of the field is going to spit out dominant characters, you know. Like America, for instance. Imagine if arm wrestling was the #1 sport in America, you'd have Big Shaq, Brian Shaw, and all these mega dudes arm wrestling, you know. Well, that's Eastern Europe,
Right.
you know, where if you're an apex athlete, you will be naturally selected for arm wrestling. You know, in a lot of Eastern countries, whether it's Russia, Georgia, you know, Latvia, Ukraine.
And they're good at starting them young as well.
Mm.
You know, having like, whether it's schools or like clubs that, you know, they get in when they're like 6 years old, 7
Yeah.
years old, and they just build the foundation.
Training
Yeah.
equipment in parks.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
anyone can rock up and just start training side pressure. It's so it's got to be Eastern Europe makes the best arm wrestlers. So
So it's like the size plus the powerlifting plus the
Yeah.
actual sort of all go towards because I think, for example, in Iran wrestling is a big thing.
huge. Huge.
In Iran. That's probably the most important sport for them.
And then weightlifting as well. It's quite
Yeah,
popular.
it's sort of like, I think,
Maybe like,
yeah, weightlifting is quite popular in Iran as well. I think it's popular everywhere, weightlifting and bodybuilding and powerlifting.
They've got a lot of Olympic champions
Yeah.
in Iran. Immense standard out there.
Yeah. So Eastern Europeans, they really like the arm wrestling way of life.
Mm-hmm. And the genetics just suit them. Same as the Iranians with weightlifting, you know, they're built for it so well. You know, it's like the compact, thick torso with the long arms, you know, and the powerful legs. And it's like the further west you go, the less of that you've got, isn't it? You know, it's you know.
Yeah, a lot of rugby, I guess. You know, sort of speed and running and you know, team sports. That seems to be.
Yeah.
There's not much. Yeah, I mean, there's no team sport thing in arm wrestling, is there?
I mean, unless you
Because it's quite sort of individualistic.
it is, unless you could have like team of people versus another team. But yeah, you are right in the sense of it's kind of like tennis or
Yeah.
you know, just you versus that person. That's it.
Yeah. What are the common injuries in arm wrestling?
Oh wow.
Is it
I'd
sort of more
say-
muscular or more sort of joint?
Number one is ligament and tendon.
Right.
That's the first thing to go.
Yeah.
You know, when you say again,
Bones.
bone breaks. I've never seen a bone break, but I've seen elbows being chipped, which is not nice, and wrists coming out.
Yeah.
Muscle tears or detachments, and then I'd say long term is postural problems,
Right.
where their shoulders come forward and forward and forward and forward and forward. You know.
Right.
But
And you know, what are the sort of things, you know, do you guys talk about to sort of prevent injuries and?
a lot of people will watch videos of injuries happening,
Right.
but I can't do it. I hate the sound of it.
I
You
mean,
know.
the science is still not quite. There's not much research in it, or
Really? Yeah.
or enough knowledge yet.
Yeah.
It's mostly just professional arm wrestlers that maybe went through that experience, saying
Yeah.
that, you know, it's probably better to do this and this rather than what I did, for example.
Yeah. So is it more technique, or you know, are there sort of nutrients or
Well, I think mostly is
supplements or
you need to kind of get conditioned.
okay.
You know, because if right in the beginning you go with doing, let's say, getting to some dangerous positions, and then
Yeah.
there's a lot of pressure
Right.
in that certain position. You know, the body isn't, you know, meant to be pushed. You know, the
Yeah.
bones pushed this way, or
Yeah.
you know, it's not a very natural movement.
Yeah.
And you know, with time, and you get more conditioned, and you don't push yourself over your limit, which
Yeah.
you know everyone does, of course, because you want to win. So I guess it's inevitable in a way.
Really.
I think for now it's just experience. You know, you get to know your body, and you know what works and what doesn't. Because you know, we don't have those, you know, scientists which are researching every small little detail.
Oh, that's
to do
interesting.
more. But I guess with, you know, with more popularity, you know, it will come.
There's a big element of kind of like, you're not a doctor, so you're not going to share how you heal up, particularly, you know, like if someone said to me, oh, my wrist hurts, you know, I think 99% of arm wrestlers would say, see a doctor then, you know. Whereas in reality, I mean, it's such a specific thing. Like, that doctor might not know anything about the ligaments in the wrist, you know.
Yeah.
And if you speak with 10 arm wrestlers, maybe one of them will have coincidentally figured out how to solve the problem, you know. But he doesn't want to say, because he's not a doctor, you know. And some of the recovery methods are so absurd that, you know, people aren't, it's not Socratic, is it? You can't just make a list of these recovery methods, you know, hand from a bar for 5 minutes, and then hot cold therapy, and they're so bizarre. It's not like, you know, 8 milligrams of paracetamol twice.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Well, yeah. I mean, sports medicine is still an early specialty. It hasn't been around for a long time. I mean, there is sports medicine for the footballers and rugby players, so you know there is that kind of specialty. But arm wrestlers are, you know, that's a new,
You know, it's still
that's
quite
a
a
new
big,
specialty.
you know,
Something
like
to
if you
think
go
about,
to a
you know, for the
doctor
doctors. Yeah.
and say, you know, I'm an arm wrestler and I did this,
Yeah.
they'll probably tell you, oh, don't arm wrestle.
Of course.
Talk to them.
Yeah. I mean, so you know, there is that generic advice, but it will be interesting to see, you know, more specialists within the arm wrestling field.
Yeah.
I'd like to know what a
Sports medicine.
physiotherapist would make of an arm wrestler. You know, because I do a bit of physiotherapy, a little bit,
Yeah.
mainly on necks and shoulders from powerlifting. And it's fascinating what arm wrestling does to your arm. Like, I felt Greg Foster's arm, who's like one of the top tier Welsh pros. It's just gristle right the way up. You know, the muscles are stuck to each other. Like the bicep and tricep are completely adhered to each other, both sides of the arm. The delt with Greg is stuck to the bicep and stuck to the tricep. It's awful, you know. It's, and I'd like a specialist to be able to say what's going on there, you know, to be able to feel it out. And
But how much of that would you say could be genetics of what he has?
no, that's 99% arm wrestling,
Okay.
I think. Yeah. Although some people don't get muscle adhesion so much, you know, other people get them all the time.
Yeah.
You know, my bicep stuck to my pec. I just can't get it off. You know.
Yeah. It'd be interesting, you know, it'd be an interesting, you know, study and you know, way of doing things for sure.
We need Devin Lara to sign up to donate his arms to science when he dies. You know, I'd love to, like.
I mean, I've seen his arm. It seems to be stuck in a particular way as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, he can't extend his arms anymore.
I think that was an issue with, sorry to cut you off, with surgery that he did. Because beforehand he was fine. But I think they moved some tendons or something like along those lines, and when they finished it off, he wasn't really, I think, moving it quite well, or he kind of let it be, and it wasn't like getting the blood flow to the area, and it didn't really heal properly. It just healed in this kind of like position.
Yeah, well, I think he told them when his bicep came off, and he told them, when you reattach it, don't reattach it there, reattach it there, because that changes the lever. So now you're pulling with a longer fulcrum, you know. So you've effectively got like a lever, you know, on your bicep, but it can't open all the way. So.
Right. So he wanted more advantage when it comes
Pretty
to
much.
pulling.
Yeah.
So that brings another question. What do you think about, you know, people wanting to tinker around with their physiology to be better, or maybe even breaking some bones so that they can heal?
Oh, it's coming. It's coming. Yeah.
Even stronger.
I've heard of one guy injecting synthol in his hand to make his thumb much bigger, which would stop you from coming around his hand. But it caused extreme carpal tunnel syndrome, and he lost all the strength in his thumb.
Wow.
So can't arm wrestle anymore, you know. And it's one of those things where I think, same with steroids, it's like, if I've got a goal that's only 3 months away, then I want my body to get as stiff as possible. I want it to get completely tied up here so that it can't open, you know. I want to abuse my body with steroids, you know. I want to, whatever, inject my thumb with whatever they do, you know. But that's only for a 3-month goal. You know, if you've got a 3-year goal, then you should look at muscle health, because that's what's going to grow muscle the best, you know. And I think it's the same with modifications, where a modification will send you down one route. You know, like if you could shorten your wrist flexor so that your wrist was always like this, you know, would that be an advantage? And I think in reality, like, yes, but in theory, the more of one thing you've got, the less of another thing you've got, you know. And arm wrestling is definitely about balance. So, you know, we'll see, you know, give it a few years, you're going to see people with titanium rods in their arms, you know, all sorts. You will. I mean, they're already doing it now, you know, where people, you know, like I said, they inject synthol, you know, HGH, growth hormone. People are trying everything they can, so it's only going to get worse.
There is this new, well, maybe it's not new, but it's things that's been going on recently, that people are trying to lengthen their legs. So they, you know, they break certain parts of the bones, they extend it and then put some rods so that they can heal and they can be taller. So, you know, but of course, you know, they don't come out as good as, you know, the regular bone.
You know, just wear higher shoes, I guess.
Yeah.
Much cheaper.
So, you know, some
Safer.
would say maybe for arm wrestling I could have a longer arm, but it probably wouldn't be as functional as it was before.
It's a bit extreme though.
Yeah.
So, you know, let's end on this, because it's been quite fascinating. What do you think is going to happen, say, in 3 years' time?
With arm wrestling?
Yeah, in this part of the world.
I think we're going to see the number of arm wrestlers turn up to competitions probably go up. Yeah, by at least a factor of 3, maybe 10.
Wow.
Yeah, I think maybe 10. Yeah, I think you're going to see televised content from the big players. So I think you're going to see the likes of Sky, the BBC, Eurosports. They're going to get back into it. They're going to see that there's a lot of money being left at the table. And more importantly, I think you're going to see athletes going direct to market, where you're not going to get organisations owning the space, whereas in football organisations own every inch of the space, you know. Whereas in arm wrestling, no, it's going to be a lot to do with the athletes, you know. Yeah. more everything, more athletes, more organisations, more content, more coverage. Yeah, maybe more money.
I guess that's what everyone wants.
Yeah.
More money.
But you need to hit a critical mass for money to be made. Like, it's no good saying, oh, we'll double the size of the sport and then we'll have double the money. But I think if we can take the sport to 10 times the size, that would unlock 100 times as much money. You know, because there's zero money now. Once you get to that size, then the sponsors are going to come. The big organisations are going to come. And we've seen it all as well in other sports. So it's not like any of it needs to be groundbreaking. You know, it's all been done before. You know, like Rogue Fitness have gotten involved and taken over CrossFit, for instance. You know, do it again. Do it again for arm wrestling. You know, do the same thing that the UFC did for arm wrestling. You know, or like we discussed, Arnold Classic, do the same thing for arm wrestling. You know.
Interesting, exciting times. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
It's been really good.
Yeah, it
Thank you
has.
so much.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. We'll have to do it again. Yeah.
Thank you.